Oh, folks. Yes, you get an oh, folks moment tonight, but I am sorry to say that it is not related to the Stephen Avery case. No, this is a new case that John and I have started investigating for the, I'm moving so that the crown doesn't sit on top of my head. I'm not the queen. This is about a new case that John and I are starting to investigate for the maiden voyage of Clue TV. And this case is the Keddie Murders. Now, the Keddie Murders, this takes place in Keddie, California. I hope I'm saying that right. Which used to be a resort town in the 70s. And then as time went on, the resort sort of went downhill, tourism started to go to shit. And the owners of the resort figured out that they could still make somewhat of a living off of the resort by renting out the cabins to low-income families. One of whom was Glenna Sue Sharp, who lived there with her 5 children. Now, Glenna had moved to California from Connecticut. She had moved to escape her abusive husband who was in the Navy. Fuck you. I get irritated with anybody who was in the Navy and acted less than honorably because my daddy was in the Navy and my brother was in the Navy, and fuck you if you are unhonorable and were in the Navy. John, my business partner, was also in the Navy, and no, you don't act dishonorably and count yourself amongst the brotherhood. Anyways, so let's dive into this. Now, what you must understand is this case is unsolved. And John and I mean to change that. Now, let me give you a real quick rundown of the case, and I will leave a link down below so you guys can start checking this shit out for yourselves. On April 13th, 1981, Glenna Sue Sharp, a 36-year-old mother of 5, was at her home at Cabin 28 in Keddie, California. Now, what you have to understand was she had agreed to let a neighborhood child and friend of her children, Justin, spend the night with her sons, Ricky, who was 10, Greg, who was 5, and her 12-year-old daughter, Tina, was also home at the time. Her oldest daughter, 14-year-old Sheila, was staying in a neighbor's house for a sleepover. And her oldest son, who was 15-year-old Johnny, and his friend, Dana Wingate, who was 17, were in the nearby town of Quincy, and they were hitchhiking back to Keddie that evening. Now, Dana was kind of known to be a bit of a troublemaker, but, come on, what 17-year-old boy isn't a bit of a troublemaker? Just saying. Now, no one knows exactly why or how the murders took place. It is believed that Johnny and Dana hitchhiked home, and because they hitchhiked home, it is possible that they either led the killers to the home or they walked in on Sue being attacked. One of the two. Now, get this shit. I'm going to quote directly from this article. The police found stab marks in the walls of the cabin and a large amount of blood on the living room floor. The autopsy reports showed all 3 victims were tied at the hands and feet, with Sue's bindings being especially tight. Now, it was Sue, Johnny, and Dana who were found in the cabin. All 3 of them were bound, but Sue's bindings were actually very, very tight. So that, to me, suggests that she was the first victim, and the other 2 were rushed. Sue and Johnny were bludgeoned with a hammer and stabbed repeatedly. Dana was strangled to death and also stabbed. Because the attacks were overkill and seemed personal in nature, many believed that the Sharp family knew their killers, and it's actually pretty true. Typically, when the attacks are severely vicious, it's somebody that the victim knows. What they don't tell you in this part of the article is that Sue was covered up with a sheet from her daughter's room. Now, the police concluded that Tina, the 12-year-old, was taken from the house that night. She was actually discovered later on the next day to be missing. In 1984, 3 years after she was abducted, Tina's skull was found in Feather Falls at Camp 18, about 29 miles, from Keddie, officially making this a quadruple murder. Later, they went back and scoured the area, and they found some more of her bones. They found a jawbone and a few other things. Sheila noticed, Sheila is the one who found the bodies. She came home the next day. She opened the front door, found the bodies. She ran around the side of the house after alerting the neighbors, and they came to help. She ran around the side of the house and opened up her brother's bedroom window and got her brothers and their little friend Justin out of the house. They were completely unharmed. So there were 3 victims in the house and then 1 that was taken and killed at another location. Sheila noticed that what she thought to be a pocket knife laying near the body. Get this shit. It was later determined to be a steak knife that was used to kill the victims. So she thought it was a pocket knife because it was bent. The attacks were so savage that the force from the stabbings bent the blade backwards to approximately 25-degree angle. What the fuck? Now, it has never been solved. There was known drug traffickers in the area of this cabin. There were known sexual predators in the area of this cabin. There were plenty of suspects, but nobody was ever arrested. Now, I will admit that I have not done a whole lot of investigation into this case. This case just came to John and I today. However, we are going to start working on this case in conjunction with the Stephen Avery case, and we are going to start preparing it for our maiden voyage of Clue TV. So I will keep you guys updated on some of the details from here. Now, from what I understand, Cabin 28 has actually been bulldozed to the ground. There is nothing else built there, but the site itself is still there. The remaining children, from what I understand, are still alive. And we are going to do everything we can to find out everything possible about this murder. So I will leave the link to this article down below in the description. I will also leave the link for the GoFundMe campaign to get Clue TV up and running down below in the description as well. Thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you soon.